Admiral Taman stood before the massive window of his flagship, staring at the empty space ahead. The stars looked normal here, but something felt wrong. Very wrong. His hand shook slightly as he held the old datapad containing orders from the Galactic Hegemony Council. "Sir, we are approaching the boundary," said Lieutenant Jihai from behind him. Her voice was calm, but Taman could hear the fear underneath. The boundary, that invisible line in space that marked the beginning of the Terran domain. For 500 years, no one had crossed it and returned to tell what they found. Ships went in. Silence came back. Dr. So Young walked up beside him, her face pale. She had spent months studying everything they knew about humans, which was not much. Most records from 5 centuries ago were lost or destroyed. What remained painted a picture of a violent, aggressive species that had once threatened the peace of the entire galaxy. "Admiral," she said quietly. "Are you sure about this?" The Council's orders seemed rushed. "Why now? Why after all this time?" Taman looked at the datapad again. The orders were clear. Investigate the Terran domain, determine if humans still posed a threat, and report back. Simple words that felt like a death sentence. "Because the outer colonies are expanding," he replied. "We need that space. The hegemony grows every year and we are running out of room. The Council believes the humans are long dead. They want proof." Captain Wu Jin joined them at the window. He was younger than the others, known for taking dangerous missions that others refused. His ship, a fast scout vessel, was already prepared for the initial probe. "The boundary is 50 light-years from here," Wu Jin said. "My sensors show nothing unusual. No ships, no signals, no energy readings. It looks empty." Dr. So Young pulled out her own device, showing holographic images of old records. "That is what they want us to think. Look at this." The image showed a message that had been broadcast across the galaxy 500 years ago. The words appeared in ancient galactic standard. "The Terran domain is forbidden. Enter at your own extinction." "Empty threats from a dead species," Taman said, but his voice lacked confidence. "Maybe," So Young replied. "But what about the Veltus expedition? The Korthax fleet? The Zanari research group? All of them tried to enter this domain over the past centuries. None came back." Wu Jin laughed, but it sounded forced. "Space is dangerous. Ships get lost all the time. Pirates, space storms, equipment failures. There are many reasons why expeditions fail. Not like this," So Young insisted. The few automated probes that managed to escape the boundary before failing sent back strange data. Screaming sounds on communication channels. Images that made no sense. Energy readings that broke our instruments. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew the stories, but hearing them spoken aloud made them feel more real. More frightening. Taman made his decision. "Captain Wu Jin, take your ship to the boundary. Do not cross it yet. Just get close enough to scan what lies beyond. Report everything you see." Wu Jin nodded and left for his ship. Within minutes, his small craft was speeding toward the invisible line that marked the edge of known space. The rest of the fleet followed at a safe distance. Hours passed. Wu Jin's reports came back normal at first. Empty space, distant stars, nothing unusual. But as he got closer to the boundary, his transmissions began to change. "Admiral, my instruments are acting strange." His voice crackled through the communication system. "The navigation computer keeps showing impossible readings. It says I am in 17 different locations at the same time." "Captain, return immediately," Taman ordered. "No, sir. I can see something now. There are structures out there, but they don't make sense. They seem to exist in the wrong dimensions. My computer cannot process what it is seeing." Dr. So Young grabbed Taman's arm. "Admiral, get him back now. This is exactly what happened to the other expeditions. Wu Jin, this is a direct order. Return to the fleet immediately." Static filled the communication channel. When Wu Jin's voice came back, it was different. Frightened in a way that made everyone on the bridge step back from their stations. "Admiral, they are still here. The humans. They have been watching us since we arrived. Watching and waiting. My sensors show thousands of ships, but they do not appear on visual. They exist in spaces between spaces. How is that possible?" The transmission cut off completely. Taman tried to contact Wu Jin again and again, but received only silence. On the long-range sensors, they could see a ship still moving toward the boundary, but all attempts to communicate failed. "Should we go after him?" Jihai asked. Before Taman could answer, Wu Jin's ship simply vanished, not destroyed, not damaged. It was there one moment and gone the next, as if it had never existed at all. Dr. So Young was studying her instruments frantically. Admiral, I am detecting massive energy buildups all along the boundary. Something is responding to our presence. Something big. All ships retreat to minimum safe distance, Taemin commanded. As the fleet pulled back, a new signal appeared on their communication systems. It was not from Wu Jin. The voice that spoke was human, but the words were in perfect galactic standard, spoken with an accent no one had heard for centuries. Admiral Taemin of the Galactic Hegemony 4th Exploration Fleet, you have been identified. Your mission parameters are known to us. You seek to determine if humanity poses a threat to your expanding empire. The bridge crew looked at each other in shock. How did they know his name? How did they know about the mission? The voice continued, calm and patient. We have monitored your civilization's growth for 500 years. We know of your wars, your conquests, your belief that you rule this galaxy. We have watched you destroy species that refuse to submit. We have seen you claim ownership of worlds that never belonged to you. This is Admiral Taemin, he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. We come in peace. We seek only to establish communication and determine the status of this region. Laughter came through the speakers, cold, bitter laughter that made the crew shiver. Peace. Yes, that is what your predecessors said when they came to exterminate us 500 years ago. They spoke of peace while preparing weapons of mass destruction. They offered friendship while planning genocide. The signal grew stronger, and now they could see something on their screens. Ships were appearing at the boundary, not emerging from hiding, but materializing from what seemed like empty space. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. You were warned 5 centuries ago, the voice said. The message was clear. The Terran domain is forbidden. Enter at your own extinction. Yet here you are, proving that some species never learn. Dr. So Young was reading her instruments with growing alarm. Admiral, those ships, they are not built with any technology in our databases. The energy signatures are impossible. They seem to bend space itself around them. Return to your masters, the human voice commanded. Tell them that humanity remembers. Tell them that we have not forgotten the crimes committed against us. Tell them that we have spent 500 years preparing for your return. The transmission ended, leaving the fleet alone with the sight of thousands of impossible ships waiting just beyond the boundary. Ships that should not exist, operated by a species that was supposed to be extinct. Admiral Taemin realized that they had not come to investigate a dead civilization. They had walked into a trap that had been waiting 5 centuries to be sprung. General Hyunwoo arrived at the fleet 3 days later with reinforcements and new orders from the Hegemony Council. His massive dreadnought dwarfed Admiral Taemin's flagship, but even its impressive size seemed small compared to the mystery waiting at the boundary. The Council does not believe your reports, Hyunwoo told Taemin during their first meeting. Ships that bend space? Humans that should be dead? They think you are seeing things that are not there. Taemin showed him the recorded transmissions and sensor data. General, with respect, the evidence is clear. Something is alive in there, and it knows we are here. Hyunwoo studied the data with the eye of someone who had fought in dozens of campaigns across the galaxy. He was known for his tactical brilliance and his ability to see through enemy deceptions. But this data made no sense to him. Even if humans survived, they were primitive 500 years ago, he said finally. We have advanced greatly since then. Our weapons, our shields, our ships are far superior to anything they could have developed in isolation. Dr. So Young joined the meeting, carrying more troubling information. General, I have been analyzing the energy signatures from those ships. They do not follow any known laws of physics. Our computers cannot even process what they are seeing properly. Impossible, Hyunwoo replied. Physics is physics. The universe has rules. Tell that to them, So Young said, pointing toward the boundary. Their ships exist in multiple dimensions at once. They appear to have mastered technologies we thought were purely theoretical. Ambassador Dong Hyun had also arrived with the reinforcements. He was the hegemony's best diplomat, skilled at finding peaceful solutions to conflicts. He believed that any misunderstanding could be resolved through proper communication. Perhaps we should try a different approach, he suggested. Instead of treating this as a military situation, we should attempt formal diplomatic contact. If humans did survive, they might be willing to negotiate. Taemin laughed bitterly. Ambassador, you did not hear the hatred in that voice. They do not want to negotiate. They want revenge. All the more reason to try diplomacy now before things get worse, Dong-hyun insisted. Against his better judgment, Hyunwoo agreed to let the ambassador attempt contact. They moved the fleet closer to the boundary, but not close enough to cross it. Dong-hyun prepared a formal message of peaceful intent. To the human inhabitants of the Terran domain, he broadcast on all frequencies. I am Ambassador Dong-hyun of the Galactic Hegemony. We come seeking peaceful dialogue and mutual understanding. We wish to discuss the possibility of establishing formal relations between our peoples. The response came immediately, but not from the same voice as before. This one was female, younger, and somehow more frightening because of how calm it sounded. Ambassador Dong-hyun, we have reviewed your diplomatic record. 17 successful negotiations with lesser species. All of them resulted in those species surrendering their sovereignty to the hegemony. Impressive work. Dong-hyun looked shocked. How could they know his personal history? We seek only mutual cooperation, he stammered. Of course you do, the voice replied. That is exactly what Ambassador Velthera said to us 500 years ago. Just before your fleets began bombarding our colonies, the bridge crew exchanged worried glances. Velthara was a name from ancient history, barely mentioned in any records they could access. I do not know of this Velthara, Dong-hyun said truthfully, but I assure you the current hegemony desires only peace. Peace through submission, peace through conquest, peace through the elimination of any species that refuses to bow to your rule. Yes, we know about your kind of peace. General Hyunwoo stepped forward. This is General Hyunwoo. If you refuse diplomatic contact, then we will have no choice but to investigate this region by force. The hegemony has legal authority over this sector of space. The laughter that came through the speakers was even colder than before. Legal authority? Granted by whom? When? Show us the document that gives you ownership of space itself. By right of superior civilization and military strength, Hyunwoo replied. The same right recognized throughout the galaxy. Ah yes, might makes right. How convenient for those with might. Tell us, General. What gives you the right to declare your civilization superior to ours? Before Hyunwoo could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the fleet. Lieutenant Ji-hai called out from her station. General, we are detecting massive energy surges from beyond the boundary. Something is happening. The space in front of them began to change. Reality itself seemed to twist and bend, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. The stars appeared to stretch and flow like liquid light. What in the name of the void is that? Hyunwoo demanded. Dr. So Young was frantically checking her instruments. The fabric of space-time is being manipulated somehow. They are changing the fundamental properties of the region around us. Suddenly, the boundary vanished. Not the invisible line they had been afraid to cross, but the actual edge of normal space. Where empty void had been before, now there were structures. Massive constructions that seemed to exist in several dimensions simultaneously. And ships. Thousands upon thousands of ships arranged in perfect formations that stretched as far as their sensors could detect. Each vessel was unlike anything in the hegemony's databases. They seemed to be made of materials that shifted and flowed, adapting constantly to unknown purposes. This is impossible, Hyunwoo whispered. How did they hide all of this? They did not hide it, the human voice explained, now coming from dozens of sources at once. They exist in dimensional spaces that your instruments cannot normally detect. We have learned to live between the cracks of reality itself. One of the human ships moved toward them. As it approached, the hegemony vessels found their own systems beginning to malfunction. Weapons powered down without orders. Shields flickered and failed. Navigation computers showed impossible readings. What are you doing to our ships? Taemin demanded. We are doing nothing, the voice replied. Your technology simply cannot function properly in the presence of our dimensional fields. Your weapons and shields exist in only 3 dimensions. Ours exist in 7. Captain Mi-kyung, commanding one of the escort vessels, reported over the communication system. Admiral, my ship is completely dead. All systems offline, but my crew is unharmed. It is as if someone just reached out and turned off my entire vessel. The human ship stopped just outside weapons range, though weapons seemed pointless now. A new voice spoke, older and carrying unmistakable authority. I am Admiral Jae-sung of the Human Defense Fleet. You have entered our domain despite clear warnings. This violation will not be tolerated. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration, Dong-hyun tried again. Peaceful, Jae-sung repeated. With a fleet of warships and a general known for his brutal suppression of rebellious colonies. Yes, very peaceful indeed. Hyunwoo realized they knew everything about the hegemony's military structure, their personnel records, even their classified operations. How do you know these things? We have been watching your civilization for 5 centuries, Jae-sung explained. Every transmission you send, every decision your leaders make, every ship that moves through space. We see it all. We know your strengths, your weaknesses, your fears, and your ambitions. The human fleet began to move, surrounding the hegemony vessels in a formation that made escape impossible. But still no weapons were fired, no threats made beyond their obvious superiority. What do you want? Taemin asked. Justice, Jae-sung replied simply. 500 years ago your predecessors tried to exterminate humanity because they feared our potential. They failed, but not before committing terrible crimes against our people. We have not forgotten. Dr. So-young was studying the new sensor readings with growing alarm. Admiral, she whispered to Taemin, these energy signatures. If my calculations are correct, any one of those human ships has enough firepower to destroy our entire fleet. Then why have they not attacked us? Taemin wondered aloud. As if hearing his question, Admiral Jae-sung answered, because we are not monsters despite what your histories claim. We do not kill without purpose. But make no mistake, Admiral Taemin, you and your fleet now serve a new purpose. You will return to the hegemony with a message. Tell them that humanity has returned. Tell them that we remember their crimes. And tell them that their empire's days of expansion are numbered. The human ships began to withdraw, but the damage was already done. The hegemony fleet hung helpless in space, their technology useless against powers they could not understand. General Hyun-woo realized that everything the hegemony believed about human extinction was wrong. They had not destroyed humanity 5 centuries ago. They had only made it angry. Commander Soo-jin had been working in the hegemony's intelligence archives for 3 days straight, digging through classified records that most people never knew existed. What she found made her blood run cold. The official histories taught in schools across the galaxy spoke of humanity as a violent, primitive species that had vanished centuries ago. But the classified files told a very different story. Humanity had not vanished. They had been forced to disappear. She printed the most damning documents and rushed to Admiral Taemin's quarters aboard the flagship. The fleet was still trapped at the boundary, their systems slowly being restored by human technology that worked in ways no one could explain. Admiral, you need to see this, she said, spreading the papers across his desk. The truth about what happened 500 years ago. Taemin looked at the documents with tired eyes. The stress of the past week had aged him visibly. What did you find? Humans were not the aggressors, Soo-jin said quietly. They were members of the galactic community. They had colonies, trade agreements, even seats on the old Galactic Council. But something changed. She pointed to a report dated 498 years ago. According to this, humanity developed something called adaptive technology. They could take any alien device, study it for a short time, and then create improved versions. Much improved versions. Taemin read the document carefully. This says they increased the efficiency of Zelthian energy shields by 300% in just 6 months. That was only the beginning, Soo-jin continued. Within a year, human improvements to alien technology were so advanced that other species could not compete. Human ships were faster, stronger, and more efficient than anything else in the galaxy. Another document showed trade records. Human colonies were prospering while alien worlds struggled to sell their goods. Human technology was simply better at everything. The other species became afraid, Soo-jin explained. They formed a secret alliance called the Preservation Coalition. Their goal was to stop human technological advancement before it made all other civilizations obsolete. A communication signal interrupted their discussion. Admiral Jae-sung's face appeared on the screen, looking older than his voice had suggested. Behind him they could see the interior of a human ship that seemed to exist in impossible geometries. Admiral Taemin, I see your intelligence officer has been reading the old files. Good. It is time you learned the truth about your precious hegemony. The hegemony was founded after your time, Taemin replied. We had nothing to do with what happened centuries ago. Jae-sung smiled coldly. The hegemony is built on the bones of the species that tried to destroy us. Your government, your military, your entire civilization exists because of the Preservation Coalition's crimes. Dr. Hayrin appeared beside Admiral Jae-sung on the screen. She was a human scientist, but her eyes held knowledge that seemed far beyond normal understanding. Allow me to explain what your ancestors did to us, she said calmly. The Preservation Coalition decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist. Not because we were violent, but because we were too good at improving everything we touched. Holographic images appeared around the hegemony officers, showing scenes from 5 centuries ago. Human colonies burning, ships being destroyed, families fleeing through space. They called it the Great Purge. Dr. Hayrin continued. A coordinated attack on every human world, every human ship, every human settlement in the galaxy. Billions of innocent people died. The images were horrifying. Children crying as their homes burned. Families separated as they ran for their lives. Entire planets turned into smoking ruins. We fought back, of course, Admiral Jae-sung said. But we were outnumbered 50-1. The entire galaxy had turned against us, so we did the only thing we could do. We retreated to the most remote region of space we could find and declared it forbidden territory. But you survived, Commander Soo-jin observed. More than survived, Dr. Hayrin replied. Isolation forced us to turn our adaptive abilities inward. We could no longer improve alien technology, so we had to create our own. The results exceeded our wildest expectations. New images appeared showing human technology that seemed impossible, ships that could fold space around them, weapons that existed in multiple dimensions, shields that drew power from alternate realities. We learned to manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe, Dr. Hayrin explained. Time, space, matter, energy, probability itself. What you see as impossible is simply science that your species has not yet discovered. General Hyun-woo had been listening from his own ship, and now his angry voice cut through the transmission. If you were so advanced, why did you hide for 5 centuries? Why not seek revenge immediately? Admiral Jae-sung's expression darkened. Because we are not the monsters you made us out to be. We hoped that given time, the galaxy would learn to live in peace. We watched your civilizations develop, hoping they would become better than their predecessors. Instead, Dr. Hayrin added, we watched the formation of the hegemony, a government built on the same principles as the Preservation Coalition, expansion through conquest, peace through submission, the elimination of any species that refuses to obey. Commander Soo-jin found more documents that confirmed the scientists' words. The hegemony's founding charter was almost identical to the coalition's secret agreements. You became exactly what they tried to create, Admiral Jae-sung said sadly. A galaxy where only one way of thinking is allowed, where different ideas are crushed before they can threaten the established order. Lieutenant Ji-Hai's, who had been monitoring their systems, reported something strange. Admiral, our computers are receiving massive data downloads. Information is being uploaded to our databases whether we want it or not. Dr. Hayrin smiled. We are giving you complete records of the Great Purge. Every document, every communication, every piece of evidence that proves what really happened. Your people deserve to know the truth. The data kept flowing into their systems. Personnel records showing hegemony officials whose families had participated in the purge. Government documents revealing that many current policies were based on anti-human laws from centuries ago. Military strategies that were originally designed for hunting down human survivors. This is overwhelming, Dr. So-young said, reading the incoming information. According to this, the hegemony has been unconsciously following anti-human protocols for its entire existence. Not unconsciously, Admiral Jae-sung corrected. The fear of human return has shaped every decision your government has made. Every expansion, every conquest, every suppression of technological advancement has been driven by the terror that someday we might come back. Captain Mi-kyung's voice came over the communication system from her disabled ship. Admiral, my crew is reporting something impossible. Human personnel are appearing inside our vessel. They are not attacking, just observing. Similar reports came from other ships in the fleet. Humans were materializing throughout the hegemony vessels, walking through their corridors, examining their technology, studying their personnel. How are you doing that? Taemin demanded. Transportation through dimensional space, Dr. Hayrin explained casually. We can move through realities where your ships do not exist, then step back into this dimension at any location we choose. Admiral Jae-sung stood up from his chair, and the camera pulled back to show the full bridge of his ship. The crew was human, but their technology was beyond anything the hegemony could imagine. Screens showed information from across the galaxy, tracking millions of ships and planets in real time. Admiral Taemin, you came here to determine if humanity posed a threat to your empire. Now you have your answer. We are not just a threat. We are the end of everything your civilization represents. What do you want from us? Taemin asked, though he feared the answer. Justice, Admiral Jae Sung replied. For 5 centuries of exile. For billions of murdered innocents. For a galaxy that chose fear over cooperation. The debt is enormous and it will be paid. And if we refuse? Dr. Hayron gestured toward a display showing the hegemony fleet. Every ship was now completely under human control, their crews unharmed but helpless. Admiral, she said gently, you're already centuries too late to refuse anything. The transmission ended, leaving the hegemony officers alone with the terrible knowledge of what their civilization had been built upon. And the growing realization that humanity's return was not just inevitable, but already happening all around them. Marshal Young-ho materialized on Admiral Taemin's bridge without warning, his human form becoming solid from what had seemed like empty air. The hegemony crew reached for their weapons but found them unresponsive. Every piece of technology on the ship was now under human control. Do not be alarmed, Young-ho said calmly, though his presence was anything but calming. He wore what appeared to be a military uniform, but it shifted and changed constantly, adapting to unknown purposes. I am here to explain what happens next. Taemin tried to maintain his composure, though facing an enemy who could appear anywhere at will was terrifying. Marshal, if that is your rank, what are your intentions regarding my fleet? Young-ho smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Your fleet is the least of your concerns, Admiral. While you have been trapped here learning uncomfortable truths, humanity has been implementing plans 5 centuries in the making. Lieutenant Ji-hai was monitoring communication channels when she gasped in shock. Admiral, I am receiving reports from across hegemony space. Human ships are appearing at every major military installation simultaneously. Impossible, General Hyun-woo's voice crackled through the communication system from his own vessel. Our border defenses would detect any approaching fleet long before they reached our core systems. Young-ho laughed. Your border defenses were designed to stop ships that travel through normal space. We do not travel through space, Marshal. We travel through the spaces between spaces. Engineer Kyung-soo appeared next to Young-ho, carrying a device that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Allow me to demonstrate, he said pleasantly. The device in his hands began to glow, and suddenly every screen in the fleet showed the same images. Hegemony military bases across the galaxy, all of them surrounded by human ships that had appeared from nowhere. Massive space stations finding themselves helpless as their weapons refused to function, entire fleets discovering that their vessels would no longer obey their commands. How long have you been planning this? Commander Soo-jin asked, her voice barely a whisper. Since the day you tried to exterminate us, Young-ho replied. 500 years of preparation. 500 years of watching your every move, learning your weaknesses, placing assets throughout your civilization. Captain Mi Kyung's panicked voice came through the communication system. Admiral, my ship's computer is showing impossible data. According to the sensors, there are human facilities hidden inside asteroids throughout hegemony space. Some of them have been there for centuries. Engineer Kyung-soo nodded approvingly. We have been very patient. Every asteroid mining operation you conducted, every space station you built, every colony you established, we were there first, preparing. Dr. So-young was frantically checking her instruments, trying to understand how such a massive deception was possible. The energy requirements alone should have been detectable. How did you hide all of this? We did not hide it, Kyung-soo explained. We placed it in dimensional pockets that exist alongside your reality, but remain invisible to your instruments. Your species sees only 3 dimensions of space. We use 7. More reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human agents were revealing themselves in government positions, military commands, even within the Hegemony Council itself. People who had lived among aliens for decades, sometimes centuries, waiting for this moment. Sleeper agents, Taemin realized. You have been infiltrating our civilization for generations. Infiltrating is the wrong word, Young-ho corrected. We have been living among you, watching you, learning how your society functions. Many of our people were born in your space, raised in your schools, served in your military. They are as much citizens of the hegemony as anyone else. Then why reveal themselves now? General Hyun-woo demanded. Young-ho's expression hardened. Because the hegemony has finally become exactly what the Preservation Coalition intended. A galaxy-spanning empire that crushes any species showing signs of independent development. The Korthani were destroyed last year for refusing to surrender their research into dimensional physics. The Velthians were enslaved for developing faster-than-light communication that could compete with yours. Commander Su-jin checked her classified files and found records confirming Young-ho's claims. Recent military actions that had been justified as necessary for galactic stability, but which now looked like systematic suppression of technological advancement. We could not allow this pattern to continue, Young-ho said. Too many species have already paid the price for the galaxy's fear of competition. Captain Mi-kyung reported new developments. Admiral, human ships are now surrounding every major population center in hegemony space. But they are not attacking. They are just waiting. Waiting for what? Taemin asked. Engineer Kyung-soo answered while making adjustments to his impossible device. For your leaders to make a choice. Surrender control of the hegemony to a joint human-alien council, or watch their civilization collapse as every piece of technology they depend on simply stops working. You would cripple billions of innocent people? Dr. So-young asked, horrified. We would free billions of people who do not even realize they are prisoners, Young-ho replied. Your citizens live under a government that exists solely to prevent any species from becoming strong enough to challenge its authority, including humanity. Lieutenant Ji-hai was monitoring long-range communications when she detected something that made her face go pale. Admiral, I am receiving a transmission from the Hegemony Council. They are ordering all military forces to converge on the Terran domain for a final assault. Young-ho and Kyung-soo exchanged glances. How many ships? Young-ho asked. According to this, every available vessel in the Hegemony Navy. Over 50,000 ships, including their most advanced dreadnoughts and battle stations. Young-ho sighed sadly. They still do not understand. After everything we have shown them, they still believe this is a problem that can be solved with conventional warfare. Engineer Kyung-soo made more adjustments to his device. Marshal, should I activate the contingency protocols? Not yet, Young-ho replied. Let them come. Let them see with their own eyes how futile their resistance truly is. Admiral Taemin realized that his fleet had become witnesses to something far larger than they had imagined. This was not just humanity seeking revenge for ancient crimes. This was the systematic dismantling of the galactic order that had existed for centuries. What happens to the innocent people caught in the middle? He asked. They will be protected, Young-ho assured him. Our quarrel is not with ordinary citizens who were born into a system they did not create. Our quarrel is with the leaders who perpetuate that system and the military forces that enforce it. Captain Mi-kyung's voice came through the communication system again, now filled with awe. Admiral, my sensors are detecting massive energy buildups throughout the Terran domain. Whatever the humans are preparing, it is beyond anything in our experience. Young-ho smiled grimly. The hegemony is about to learn what 5 centuries of technological development can accomplish when an entire species dedicates itself to never being victims again. Marshal, Commander Su-jin said quietly, if your people are so advanced, why not simply take control immediately? Why this elaborate demonstration? Because, Young-ho replied, we want the galaxy to understand that this change is inevitable. We want your leaders to see that resistance is not just futile, but pointless. We want them to choose cooperation over destruction. Engineer Kyung-soo looked up from his device. Marshal, the hegemony fleet is 6 hours away from the boundary. All human assets are in position and ready. Young-ho nodded. Then it is time for the galaxy to learn that some warnings should never be ignored. The 2 humans began to fade from view, becoming translucent before disappearing entirely. But Young-ho's voice remained clear as he delivered his final message. Admiral Taemin, you and your people will be returned safely to hegemony space. Tell your leaders what you have seen here. Tell them that humanity offers one last chance for peaceful transition. After today, there will be no more chances. The hegemony officers found themselves alone on their bridge, their systems slowly coming back online. But they all knew that they were no longer in control of their own destiny. They were about to witness the end of the galactic order they had known all their lives. Admiral Sun Hee commanded the largest military force in galactic history. 53,000 ships from every corner of hegemony space, including massive battle stations that could destroy entire planets. The combined firepower was enough to sterilize hundreds of worlds, and it was all aimed at the Terran domain. All ships report ready for assault, her tactical officer announced. Admiral, we have enough firepower here to turn every star in that region into a supernova. Sun Hee studied the battle plans on her command screen. Every strategy the hegemony's best military minds could devise was represented here. Overwhelming force, coordinated attacks, weapons designed specifically to counter the dimensional technologies they had observed. "Remember," she announced to the fleet, "we are not just fighting for the hegemony. We are fighting for the right of galactic civilization to exist without living in fear of human technological superiority." Admiral Taman's fleet had been released and had rejoined the massive armada. He stood on Sunhee's bridge trying to convince her that the attack was hopeless. "Admiral, you did not see what I saw," he pleaded. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours. This fleet will be destroyed without achieving anything." "Then we will die with honor," Sunhee replied coldly. "Better to fight and lose than to surrender our civilization to a species that should have been extinct long ago." Dr. So Young had also been transferred to the flagship, bringing all the data she had collected about human capabilities. "Admiral Sunhee, according to my analysis, the humans can disable our weapons without firing a shot. They can appear anywhere in our formation at will. This is not a battle we can win through conventional means." "Then we will find unconventional means," Sunhee answered. "The Hegemony Council has authorized the use of reality disruptor weapons. If we cannot defeat their technology, we will destroy the space-time fabric itself." Taemin was horrified. "Those weapons are theoretical at best. Using them could tear holes in reality itself. The damage could spread throughout the galaxy. Better a damaged galaxy under our control than a perfect one under theirs," Sunhee declared. As the massive fleet approached the boundary of the Terran domain, something unexpected happened. The space ahead of them began to change, but not in the way they had expected. Instead of the twisted dimensions and impossible geometries they had seen before, the region became perfectly clear. Every ship, every station, every construct that humanity had built over 5 centuries became visible at once. The sight was overwhelming. Structures that dwarfed entire star systems, ships that seemed to be made of crystallized space itself, installations that existed in so many dimensions that looking at them directly caused headaches. "By the void," Sunhee whispered. "How many of them are there?" Her tactical computers tried to count the human forces but gave up after reaching numbers that seemed impossible. Millions of ships, billions of defensive platforms, weapons systems that registered as having infinite power outputs. President Namjoon's voice filled every communication channel in the Hegemony fleet. He spoke with the authority of someone who had waited centuries for this moment. "Admiral Sunhee of the Galactic Hegemony Combined Fleet, you arrive with impressive numbers. 53,000 ships, 7 battle stations, weapons capable of destroying stars, all of it aimed at a people who wanted nothing more than to be left alone." "President Namjoon," Sunhee replied formally, "we demand the immediate withdrawal of all human forces from hegemony space, and the cessation of your interference in galactic affairs." Namjoon's laughter was heard across the entire fleet. "You demand? You bring weapons of mass destruction to our home and make demands? How remarkably similar you are to the coalition that tried to exterminate us." Dr. Tae-young appeared on the communication screens throughout the fleet. Unlike the other humans they had met, she seemed genuinely sad about what was happening. "Admiral Sunhee, I have spent decades studying the history of this conflict. I have read every record, analyzed every decision that led us to this moment. There is still time to choose a different path. The only path forward is the one that preserves galactic civilization," Sunhee declared. "Humanity has proven that it cannot coexist peacefully with other species. You must be contained or eliminated." "Contained?" Namjoon's voice carried centuries of suppressed anger. "We were contained for 500 years. We used that time to ensure that we would never again be vulnerable to galactic aggression. Now you will learn what that preparation has accomplished." The human fleet began to move, but not in any formation the hegemony officers recognized. Ships flowed through space like liquid, passing through each other as if they existed in different realities. Some vessels simply vanished and reappeared elsewhere, while others seemed to stretch across impossible distances. "All ships, open fire," Sunhee commanded. The hegemony fleet unleashed everything it had: energy beams that could melt planets, missiles that could crack moons, reality disruptor weapons that tore holes in space itself. The barrage was so intense that nearby stars flickered from the energy discharge. None of it reached the human ships. Every weapon fired by the hegemony simply vanished before reaching its target, absorbed into dimensional pockets that existed outside normal space. The reality disruptor weapons activated and immediately turned on their own ships, tearing apart hegemony vessels while leaving human forces completely untouched. Impossible, Sun He screamed. How are they redirecting our own weapons? President Namjoon's voice remained calm throughout the chaos. We have had 5 centuries to study every form of warfare ever developed. We know your weapons better than you do. We know how they work, how they fail, and how to turn them against you. Dr. Tae-young appeared on Sun He's bridge, materializing from thin air just as the other humans had done. Admiral, please order your fleet to stand down. Your people are dying for nothing. Sun He looked around at her command center, where half her officers had collapsed from dimensional feedback created by their own weapons. How do you move through our shields as if they do not exist? Because to us they do not exist, Tae-young explained gently. Your shields protect against attacks from this dimension. We attack from 7 dimensions simultaneously. Admiral Taemin checked the fleet status reports and found them devastating. 30% of the hegemony ships had been destroyed or disabled, and they had not managed to damage a single human vessel. Admiral Sun He, we must withdraw, he urged. This is not a battle. This is a slaughter. No, Sun He refused. The hegemony does not retreat. All ships prepare for close-range assault. If we cannot destroy them from a distance, we will ram them with our ships. Before the order could be carried out, every ship in the hegemony fleet simply stopped moving. Their engines were still running, their power systems were still active, but they could not move through space. President Namjoon's voice filled the silence. Admiral Sun He, we have suspended your vessels in dimensional locked coordinates. You cannot move because the space around you no longer connects to the space around us. Dr. Tae-young looked at Sun He with something that might have been pity. Admiral, your entire civilization has been built on a lie. The lie that strength comes from the ability to destroy your enemies. True strength comes from the ability to make enemies irrelevant. What do you want? Sun He finally asked, her voice defeated. Namjoon answered from his distant command ship. We want what we have always wanted. The right to exist without fear. The right to develop our civilization without interference. The right to live in a galaxy where differences are celebrated rather than eliminated. And if we refuse, then you will discover that we have moved far beyond the need for your permission, Namjoon replied. The galaxy will change whether you cooperate or not. The only question is whether that change comes through peaceful transition or through the complete replacement of your government. Dr. Tae-young gestured toward the screens, showing the devastated hegemony fleet. Your people have fought bravely, Admiral, but this is a war that was lost before it began. We are not your enemies. We are your evolution. What does that mean? Admiral Taemin asked. It means, President Namjoon explained, that humanity is offering the galaxy a choice. Join us in building a civilization based on cooperation and mutual advancement, or be left behind as we move into possibilities you cannot imagine. And those who refuse will find themselves living in an increasingly irrelevant portion of the universe, Namjoon said simply. We will not harm those who simply wish to maintain their current way of life, but we will not allow them to prevent others from choosing a different path. The communication channels filled with reports from across the galaxy. Human forces were taking control of every major government facility, every military installation, every center of power. But instead of conquest, they were offering partnership to any species willing to embrace change. Admiral Sun He realized that the galaxy she had sworn to protect no longer existed. In its place was something new, something humanity had spent 5 centuries preparing. The age of expansion through conquest was ending, replaced by an age of evolution through cooperation. What happens now? She asked quietly. Dr. Tae-young smiled for the first time since appearing on the bridge. Now, Admiral, we begin building the galaxy that should have existed 5 centuries ago. A galaxy where every